Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a monumental structural shift in India's industrial policy. And look, I know industrial policy sounds like dry bureaucratic paperwork, but trust me, this is a massive deal. It's a highly calculated roadmap recently revealed by official government sources, and it's designed to completely eliminate India's reliance on $51 billion worth of imported critical goods. We're going to break down exactly how this plan is going to directly shape your personal wallet, your future job market, and national security. Think about this for a second. What if I told you that the entire stability of India's economy, we're talking the price of your next smartphone, the cost of medical equipment at your local hospital, even the safety of our defense systems, is currently vulnerable to a totally hidden dependency? And we aren't talking about importing foreign oil or gold here. We are talking about invisible industrial components that India completely relies on other countries to supply. And this dependency, it comes with a very specific, jaw-dropping price tag, $51 billion. That massive figure represents the highly specific, invisible imports that the Modi administration is planning to replace with a sweeping Made in India economic shield. They've meticulously identified over 100 heavily imported product categories, and they're launching an aggressive plan to substitute them entirely with domestic manufacturing. Let's start with Section 1, the hidden dependency risk. Before we get into the actual blueprint, we really need to separate everyday global trade from dangerous vulnerability. When you look at trade data, importing goods is just a normal part of global business. India buys apples from New Zealand, machinery from Germany, and in return, exports software and pharmaceuticals. Totally standard. But a massive crisis happens when a country develops what's called a critical import reliance. This means a complete 100% dependence on foreign supply chains for highly specialized, invisible components that are absolutely indispensable to keeping our primary domestic industries running. To really wrap your head around this risk, imagine you run a massive state-of-the-art car factory. You weld the frames locally, you hire thousands of local workers, the assembly is flawless. That's your 99% finished local factory. But to make the engine actually start, you need this custom-engineered electronic microswitch that you buy for pennies from across the ocean. Well, if a dispute breaks out and shipping lanes lock down, you can't roll a single car out of those gates because you're missing that tiny 1% piece. It's literally like the frustration of building IKEA furniture and realizing you're missing one vital screw, but happening on a multi-billion-dollar national scale. The whole shebang just grinds to a total standstill. And hey, this isn't just some hypothetical thought experiment, right? Over the last few years, global disruptions, think the pandemic lockdowns, those intense maritime shipping bottlenecks in the Red Sea, and the escalating wars in Europe and West Asia, they've proven firsthand that relying on the outside world for vital components is a huge risk to national economic sovereignty. Which brings us to Section 2, the $51 billion blueprint. So after months of incredibly intensive audits across basically every single government ministry, global news agencies report that this master plan was born. And the logic driving it is absolutely fascinating. The government realized that, the broader Make in India initiative has been this incredible success for assembling final products. I mean, it transformed India into the world's second largest smartphone manufacturer. But the deeper underlying component ecosystem was still heavily tied to foreign shores, particularly China. So the realization was it's time to move beyond just snapping pre-made foreign parts together and really get into deep component manufacturing. What's super interesting about this is how targeted the approach is. They didn't just throw up their hands and say, let's make absolutely everything here. Instead, they pinpointed over 100 heavily imported product categories across 4 specific critical pillars: advanced electronics, heavy industrial machinery, specialized chemicals, and high-end telecom equipment. Make no mistake. These are the arteries of a modern economy. Okay, moving on to Section 3, executing the master plan. The government isn't just politely asking corporations to change their importing habits. They have rolled out a multi-layered, highly coordinated offensive strategy to force local manufacturing to scale up and fast. It's basically a 3-pronged attack: expanding PLI schemes, facilitating state-funded tech transfers, and fundamentally altering public procurement laws. This is all designed to create a fully integrated local supply chain within our own borders. Let's break these 3 steps down really quick. First up, the massive expansion of the production-linked incentive, or PLI schemes. This is such a smart setup. Under this framework, the state essentially steps in as a financial partner. So if an Indian company builds an advanced factory to make, say, a specialized chemical or an electronic component that we used to import, the government actually pays them direct cash incentives based on a percentage of their total sales revenue over 5 years. Suddenly, with that state financial backing, setting up shop domestically becomes highly profitable and can totally compete with cheap foreign alternatives. Step 2 is a really unique approach to completely bypassing R&D. See, local micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSMEs, they often just don't have the huge budgets you need to reverse engineer complex global components. So the government is stepping in, using state funds to actually purchase advanced global manufacturing licenses and blueprints directly. Then they take those high-tech blueprints and share them natively with local manufacturers, entirely skipping years of slow, expensive research. That is a game changer. And third, to absolutely guarantee a secure market for these new homegrown suppliers, they're heavily altering public procurement laws. Under these updated mandates, whenever there's a major national infrastructure project, we're talking high-speed railways, regional power grids, advanced defense equipment, the government is now legally bound to prioritize buying from certified domestic component makers. They will literally ignore cheaper foreign bids if necessary. It's a massive, highly protective shift for the local economy. Let's look at Section 4, Impact on Your Future. Now for the most crucial part of this whole explainer, translating this big macroeconomic policy into the direct micro effects on you. We have to answer the ultimate question. So what? How does a $51 billion master plan drawn up in New Delhi actually alter your daily life, your career options, and your household budget? Well, there are 3 massive takeaways here. The first major impact is an absolute explosion of high-value career opportunities. By shifting the focus toward manufacturing advanced electronics and precision parts right here at home, the industry is entering a much more sophisticated phase. This creates a golden highway of premium, high-paying jobs for young Indian chemical engineers, hardware designers, robotic technicians, and data scientists. We are fundamentally and permanently upgrading the quality of our industrial job market. Takeaway number 2 is consumer price stability. Now let's be real. In the short term, as local factories spend heavy capital to set up these complex lines, you might see a minor, temporary bump in input costs. But in the long term, having these components made locally acts as the ultimate insurance policy for your wallet. When the next global crisis or shipping strike erupts, our factories keep running without a hitch because their parts are made just a few hundred kilometers away. It completely insulates the prices of your everyday electronics and cars from international madness. And the third and final impact is immense geopolitical leverage. Make no mistake, true national power in the 21st century, it's measured by absolute economic self-sufficiency. By cutting off this multi-billion-dollar dependency, India transforms into a fiercely independent tech superpower. It guarantees that our sovereign political decisions can never be pressured, held hostage, or compromised by any foreign trade cartels. So, the Modi government's $51 billion blueprint is all about building an unshakable shield around the economy. They are aggressively expanding cash incentives, sharing advanced blueprints, and locking down domestic supply grids. It's a really bold leap from just assembling goods to deeply engineering them from scratch. But of course, it does require massive upfront investments. So I want to leave you with this final thought. Is this deep tech localization push and the unshakable economic shield it promises worth potential temporary price hikes to secure a fully self-reliant future? Think about it and keep exploring just how profoundly these invisible supply chains shape our everyday lives. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and keep learning.